everybody. We're back with Keeping It Real with the Real Deal, episode 13. We had a little bit of pause while Mr. Raymond Daniels himself got a chance to go back to work teaching in sunny California. And we are super pleased, and I'm excited to have in my opinion, one of the best martial arts analysts out there today, Robin Black. Robin, thank you for dedicating the small time to work out with this. And as a quick pause, I know everybody's familiar with Raymond, but if you have not followed Robin Black on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, I think you have a TikTok too.
Yeah.
Got everything out there. This man loves the martial arts. Now, let me just explain that. That's not kicking and punching. This man loves the martial arts. And in martial arts, there is art. He will explain and break down techniques specifically with his 1 minute, 2 minute breakdowns, whatever he does. He's a complete fan of what he does. Robin, thank you for joining us.
Man, thanks for having me. I get to do a lot of cool stuff in a week, or in almost any week. I break down fighting. I get to talk to cool fighters. I analyze stuff. I do stuff I like almost all day, all the time. But I was super looking forward to hanging out with you guys. Besides the fact that Raymond is a genius and you guys are brilliant martial artists, three like martial arts nerds hanging out watching art.
That's what
this is my thing, man. This is my thing.
So that is the truth. That is the truth. I remember when I first found out about you and stuff like that, I saw one of my fights and I was like, man, who's this breaking this down? I'm just like, man, his IQ, his understanding of what it is that I'm doing. This is before I kind of really knew about you. And then I was like, let me go do my homework, see what this guy's talking about. And I was just like, okay. But I was so impressed in the way you were breaking down the fight. I was just like, was he in my mind at the moment when I was actually doing those motions? So if you guys don't know, now you know.
That's
the analyst.
That is
in the sport, brother. So
that is the nicest thing, man, hearing that from you. And it's a very kind way you put it, because what I'm hoping to figure out is what the minds are doing, like what the drivers of the human. It's one thing to say, look, that guy checked a kick. It's another thing to talk about sort of the psychological playing cards and chess pieces that you guys are playing. And that's a very big compliment, man. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. That's what for me, that's what I noticed as a fighter. Like, oh man, he's exactly right. This is exactly what I was going through, or maybe a little bit different, or whatever the case was. So for me, it was an awesome experience, and I love that I've had the great pleasure of meeting you, of having you break down multiple of my fights and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, let me see what he's got to say about this one. I actually look forward to seeing what you think that I'm thinking as going into the move.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool. Thank you.
That's always a great point. So this week we've got a couple of fights. We've got one or two. We'll see how many we get to. We're gonna talk about the World Combat League, WCL. Now, this was a promotion that was started by Chuck Norris in 2005, and it had an interesting take on things. You actually had kickboxing teams, and Raymond, this is one of the promotions that definitely got you in front of a national audience, and definitely got your name out there at the time. Remind me again what team you were on when you were in the WCL.
I was on the Los Angeles Stars, the LA Stars. I got to represent Cali. It was an amazing experience to fight on the World Combat League. It was I had done some full contact events, but it was my first time doing some televised events and stuff like that. And I got the call up from our sport karate world. So, and at the time, to be honest, a lot of people thought that sport karate competitors were not going to be able to participate at a full contact level, and honestly said it was dangerous for us to fight in full contact fighting. Obviously, we've kind of, I guess, proved them wrong a little bit in that regard.
Let me ask you, Raymond, two things. One, when you found out this was televised, this was TV had a much deeper meaning then than it does now. Not everybody was being filmed all the time. This was a rare occasion. Did you think about it and deal with it really, or did you just say, nah, it makes no difference? Like, did you address the reality of it, or did you kind of just try to ignore it?
Yeah, I kind of tried to ignore. I didn't really address the reality because I felt like I wanted to go out, and I felt that I had God had given me a gift, and I wanted to go out and perform. And it was a very rare, like you said, it was a rare thing that, like, not every event was televised like that in the past, So, and then it was an event that was in Las Vegas, and my family is some of my family, my mother's out there, so I was going to get a chance to fight in front of my mother, my brothers, and had never seen me fight in full contact. So I had other pressures besides the television. I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom's going to be in the crowd. She's going to have her eye. She's going to be with my baby, and I'm the youngest in the family. And so, so I had other, concerns, but yeah, it was definitely a different experience. And I was very, I had a lot of adrenaline, and to be honest, like when I look at these fights, I'm like, I'm so just how we're just talking about raw. I didn't have any training. I was jittery. I was like, okay, the lights are on, and I went out there and I had zero experience in, like, I say, boxing or kickboxing or any of that. I was just a martial artist, and I had a martial arts skill set, and I was like, well, let me go out and just do my martial arts. And
that ties to my second question. Was, did you, when people were like, these sport karate guys can't do this, it's dangerous for them, this will not work, did you entertain that might be true? Like, did that create fear or hesitation or concern? Like, did you have doubts that you could make that work, or were you sure you would make it work?
No, it was a little bit different thing. It was more about, I wanted to prove people wrong, because first and foremost, I'm a martial artist. Like, meaning I'm a martial artist. I can protect myself. I can protect my family. I was a police officer for a number of years. So, I don't use my martial arts in a destructive way. I use it to protect myself and people I love and people around me. So that being said, it was, I almost felt it was an insult sometimes when people were saying those things, and I didn't take it obviously as like them trying to be disrespectful to me, but an insult to me as a martial artist to say that because I choose to fight in a specific type of field means that I can't really fight. But at the end of the day, it's just a rule set. It's like telling a fencer, like, oh, you can't fight in a real sword match because you only practice fencing. When if you gave that fencer a real sword, he would do some serious damage because of how fast he is. And for me, I look at it as a martial arts from a point sparring background, we are like fencers. We are the fastest with the sword, and we can always strike first. I'm 40 years old, and I have not met a person in MMA that doesn't come from a sport karate background that can strike faster than I can strike, and I'm 40. And so for me, I took it as a challenge. It kind of like, even when I remember being at the event, everybody's like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be doing this little bouncing around stuff. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna show you guys what this little spinny, flippy thing stuff can actually do. So I was really excited to show everybody the beauty of what I saw in the sport and what I feel a true martial artist is. Because I feel in MMA, a lot of times guys take a little bit of boxing, a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of, say, Muay Thai or karate, and they don't become true masters, say, at it. You do have some that are masters, like the Gracies, masters at their particular art. And then you have some people that are just well-rounded, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But I love to see a master.
Me too.
Art form, and that's what's beautiful. And that's, for me, I'm in sport karate. That's what I'm trying to instill to this day.
Pulling the curtain back a little bit, when attending one of your glory fights in your glory days, I believe this was in Hampton, Virginia, or out in the Peninsula of Virginia. I had a chance to drive down there and cover that. I spoke to one of the, and I'm forgetting this guy's name now, but he was telling me about when you got signed to glory, is that he was pitching the idea for you to be there, and they kind of didn't want to hear it. Oh, this guy's just a sports karate guy. Yeah, we saw him do some cool stuff in the WCL. Okay, we're going to get him over here, and he's going to get destroyed, and it's going to be over. And we know what happened in glory. Some of your most, I think you helped put glory on the match with your knockout of the century, as it's been called, with Mr. Armbang and everything. And I think it started to make people turn and say, well, maybe we shouldn't write things off like this so easily. You like you mentioned, being a master of your craft, being able to set that up. I specifically remember when I watched that fight and you got the knockdown and you took 2 steps back. And my mind went back to almost every tournament I've seen you in. I said, oh, I know what's coming next. I've seen this 1,000 times before at whatever event. I know what's coming. But the world didn't, and we got a great, wonderful highlight there. And, I think, it's not necessarily discounting an art or an art form, but it's also the person who does it. What are the tools that you have to do with it? If you broke down basketball and you only limit it to 3-pointers, but this guy can't dunk. He can't play on the inside. But you bring together all those tools and you see, so you can't just necessarily discount one thing because it comes from here or the other.
It's crazy too, because martial arts is like a second order chaotic system, meaning that speaking about it or looking at it or learning it or doing it actually affects the entire organism. So if somebody gets really good at something, we say that thing works. If we dismiss anything else, we don't train it, we don't prepare for it, we don't understand it, and in fact, we make it work. the more you deny what Ray did before he did it, or the next guy, that somebody who studies Chinese martial arts and is a master of it, and you say it doesn't work. The saying that it doesn't work, in fact, helps it work, because we dismiss it, we don't train it, we don't see it, we don't study it, we don't acknowledge it's real until we're unconscious, right? That's the nature of it. So the whole denial of something actually is a natural human thing, but it's part of what causes something to be so good. And when, like you said, when Ray did the side kick to the spin kick, or two touch, or many different names for it, it is, of all the things that the guy he's facing and almost everybody else could expect is possible, that was not one of them. And that's partly why it worked so well.
And that's how I look at it, is like, you know, the biggest thing that can hurt you is the things that you don't know. You know, you don't know until you know. So like, one of the worst times to find out as a fighter about something new is when you're actually in a match and you're fighting. That is the worst time to find out that your opponent has the set that you have never seen or do not understand. And that's what I learned throughout my martial arts career and just through life. You know, is try to understand and have a respect and understanding for what it is that the other person is doing. Because if you do not understand and do not respect it, that is the thing that will put you unconscious or that can hurt you. So always have, you know, an open mind, you know, and to what it is that someone is doing. And I think a lot of times people say, oh, well, all you got to do is this. But it's a lot different. A lot of people, when they see it, say on TV or they see a video of it, it's a lot different also when you're in there. Say the difference that a fight with or the speed that comes at them, it's a lot different than, you know, just watching it happen.
I think you're absolutely right on that. Well, let me get you down to breaking down some footage. This, again, is from the WCL. And Ray, set the table for us. Tell us, you know, as usual, what you were thinking, where, if you can even remember where the specific for the clip that you've chosen was at. And Robin, feel free to jump in when you see something cool. So
cool.
Take it away.
This is bringing his bag right here. So this is going into one of my first WCL fight. Actually, I actually got hurt previously, and I didn't have a chance to fight in the WCL. And then this was my first event. This one was in Las Vegas. I was really excited. I got put on the LA Stars. My first event, I remember our team losing really pretty bad in this event. I was the sixth fight going out. I think we were down by like, you know, probably like 20, 30 points in a team fight. So I'm like, okay, you know, I've been down before in team fights from sport karate events, but not in a full contact match. I thought the concept was very interesting that they had with this, just because it was a team event, kind of got the city versus city going on. So, and then, like I said, again, fighting in Las Vegas was awesome. Fighting in front of my family was nerve-wracking, and then to have the stage on the big
that's
camera.
Young Ray Daniels. Woo!
Yeah.
This before I even understood weight cutting. I didn't understand anything. I fought at 195. I didn't understand dieting. I just understood I was a martial artist. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna drink. I never weighed myself. I didn't start understanding weight cuts until years later. I just went out there and fought whatever weight I walked around at. And I walked around, I believe, about in my 180s right now, and I fought at 195 right here.
So where was this gentleman that you were fighting from? What did you know about him?
So
good question.
So this guy right here I'm fighting is Ronnie Copeland. He was a world champion kickboxer at the time. So everybody was saying how the big thing was, you know, it was dangerous to put me in there with a world-class kickboxer, because I was not a world-class kickboxer, a kickboxer that is a world champion. So I kind of, you know, did some footage on him. He won multiple world titles in the area of kickboxing. And so for me, you know, I was nervous to go and, you know, test my mettle, you know, somebody from a different art form. But I also understood that a lot of the people really lacked the respect of where it was that I was coming from. So I knew that they wouldn't understand kind of like the speed that I was coming with. And because I can hit you first, I can always hit you as hard as I want to on the first shot.
Right. And you can get away and hit him again and get away. And the other difference we know now is the speed in and the speed out actually ends up protecting you from the heavy kicker or the heavy puncher, the speed in and the speed out. And it's just not something they would have understand, that in truth, some people should have been saying it was dangerous for him to get in there with you.
Yeah,
in retrospect.
yeah, exactly. And this is before I ruptured. I don't know if you had known, Robin, but I had ruptured my Achilles tendon some years ago. Pre-ruptured Achilles tendon, so I was fast on like just jumping in and out and not taking off a lot of damage. So go ahead and get it going. So as you can see, this is WCL at its infancy. They didn't have the logos in the ring or anything going on like that.
So cool.
Yeah, it was an interesting ring. I really enjoyed the concept, and I think like especially for my style of fighting, this was one of the most exciting as far as just styles, because it was just like a fighter goes up and then they just are super explosive, and then it's the next fights and they go up and they're super explosive as opposed to, you know, sometimes the fighter's energy level comes down during fights. So I'll go ahead and hit the play button. This is me using my karate style blitz. You know, trying to get out, him kicking me in my groin on the way out.
So you entered with the rear hand first, right? And you are right-handed, correct?
Yes, I'm naturally a right-handed. People don't understand that. So like my fighting styles, I like to fight with my dominant eye forward. It's like if you're gonna shoot a gun, you wouldn't shoot with your eye that's not your dominant eye. I like to have my dominant eye because I can pick up things faster. So I train my students not on what if they're right-handed or left-handed. I train them on their dominant eye because the reaction time will be a lot faster.
It's interesting. Bruce Lee talked a lot about the best hand forward from a fencing standpoint, but he never got detailed into the dominant eye and the effect it has on your ability to read and interpret the movement. That's really brilliant, Ray. I've never heard that referenced before, but it's brilliant, man.
Yeah, that's why I actually pretty much whenever I start training somebody, I tell them to aim as if they were aiming at something, and whatever eye is dominant, I'll train them with that side forward. You know, and it worked very cool.
Very cool.
And then using my blitz, using my spin kicks, it's a little slippery out there.
That was a hook kick.
Yeah.
Most people in the professional sport, they don't see hook kicks.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. They still don't really. And it's also quite brilliant too, when you think about it. You're against his open side of his body. So it's there. You've got your dominant leg in the front. So, and his open side is there. So you can just, it plays perfectly into that right eye, right hand forward.
Yeah. So like, and people don't understand too, is like, to be honest, in sport karate, I've been honestly used to fighting people that fight in the southpaw stance. So when I went to full contact, I had to kind of just get used to fighting people in orthodox stance. Most people, majority of people fight. In fact, my last fight was the first person I fought in the southpaw stance. And I have a whole different tool set for a southpaw fighter than I do from an orthodox fighter. So no one has ever seen my southpaw tool set. So all they've ever seen is through my orthodox. So and so sometimes people don't notice also, like I'll fight one stance, but I'll also switch my base a lot of times in order to create different openings. So that way I'm also in an orthodox stance. I'm using my fakes and my movement. Again, this is before I really studied jab and crosses. As you can see, I got a lot of energy.
Yeah. These are 3-minute rounds. The spin. Oh, that is just.
We got to break that down.
Can you pull back? Can you pull that?
Yeah, I'll pull it back for you a little bit. So it's a fight.
So the left, there's that kind of front leg. Your left strike with your left hand a couple times is going to be what sets this up. Yeah. Now you tuck that one behind the shoulder.
Yeah.
But he's already probably fairly confused here.
Yeah, definitely.
Right on the exit. Oh, see, that's the speed out, and here it comes. There, pink. That is so nice. So you stepped too orthodox briefly before throwing the right leg spin against his orthodox.
Yeah, see, a lot of people don't notice that. A lot of people don't noticing. That's what I love about your fight IQ, brother. A lot of people don't notice I'm southpaw, but watch how I step. See, I step
there.
Forward,
yeah.
Read that opening.
That little dance, like that little, it would be deceptive for a lot of people because you didn't step in a traditional way. There's a little, almost a Muhammad Ali little switch of the foot. It's so nice, man. You must have. So all of this has happened. You've now landed it. We're 30 seconds into it. I can see your face in that brief moment, but are you even kind of aware that this thing's done?
No, I just know I landed, like I've landed kicks like that, but now it's full contact, so I don't have to worry about, like in sport karate tournaments, I'm usually worrying about, making sure I'm not
Disqualification.
missing my opponent, so I'm usually pulling my shot. And in full contact, it's different because I don't have to pull those type of shots. So
Mm.
I can actually in sport karate, I would pull this foot back a little bit. In this fight, if you watch when I throw, my hook kick goes all the way through my target.
Mm-hmm.
I normally don't hit people like that. Um,
Yeah. Let's
yeah,
watch for that little switch to the stance. And because, man, there's so much happening here. Coming in off the rear hand later, even if he's interpreting that stuff, it'll disguise that little step to orthodox that you made, that brief little step to orthodox, because you've been lunging in off the rear hand so much, his brain's not going to be able to recognize that.
yeah, definitely. And that's what I have to come in, like, if you're very accurate on that. See, if you notice, I always come in with my, because we're in Southpaw versus Orthodox, and obviously I don't have to worry about them taking me down or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can step in and lead with my left hand and close the distance there, because now I'm to his backside, so my lead foot is behind his lead foot. So therefore, I'm in a position where my shot is going to be the hardest. I'm in a position of advantage where I'm going to be safe now, because I don't have to worry about a lot of fighters. One of the fights that I look at when fighters sometimes, I remember the Bisbing and Rockhold fight, yes, and Rockhold step in and threw a jab, but he had his lead foot in front of Bisbing's foot, and they're fighting in these stances. So therefore, that's why Bisbing was able to come with a cross and a hug behind because of the foot positioning. So a lot of fighters don't get their outside foot behind, and it puts them in a dangerous spot.
So I'm going to do a breakdown of this later because this is so fun. But it just took where he is, so he's covered up because he's also shook. So that's great. But if you just took two little lines straight out in a fan for what he can hit, straight out from his left, straight up from his right, you're not in front of any of it.
No.
So if you look at your position, you're behind his left hip, in fact. Everything in front of him that he could hit, there's no Ray Daniels there. Ray Daniels is back here. So that's pretty sick. Never mind that later we'll see that left foot that's now back. When that left foot steps forward, that'll temporarily create that orthodox to let you spin right through him. It's really sick, man. This all happened in 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people don't see, like, kind of what's going on and the reason why you step this way is because there's I call it it's like a danger zone, basically, that everybody has, like this pile, 45, that jab, crosses, hooks, round kicks, all of them can hurt you at. And as long as you step outside of that danger area, you're going to actually be okay. And so I'm outside of that. So therefore, I don't have to worry about really, say, a lot of damage. I got to worry about like a wild spinning, like elbow or back fit, but it's very rare that something like that's going to happen. And as long as I'm aware that that's all they can actually throw at me, my
so
blitz,
cool.
I think, also helps too. And then I pulled away to create space, and then back in.
If somebody were to just watch your feet in that that little sequence before that spin, that's really what makes it possible. Where you are in space compared to him and the relationship between you guys. Man, I have so many questions. I could spend hours and hours asking you, but it's one thing I've always wanted to kind of make sense of, and that's we will say Ray saw X, or then in this position, Ray saw that this happened. But it's really not only your vision, right? There's sort of a tactile understanding of the feeling. Like there's something about the awareness of space that has very little to do with your eyes. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like a sense of feeling or a sense of training. Like, when you put yourself in certain positions, you become aware. Stop the share too. But you become aware of kind of like, different things in that your opponent can throw, depending on what stance they're in, or how close and how far you are. So the more you've trained it, you have this this awareness. It's so hard to explain to people that
Yeah.
you can kind of, it's like if you can sense somebody walking up behind you, you kind of just turn around and you look. So if you train that, you can actually train yourself to be aware of when people are walking up behind you. It's the same when you're fighting. You can train yourself to kind of see and see people drop their weight before it happens. I remember some of my fights, things happening in like slow motion, where I'm like, when I'm thinking to myself, is this guy really, why is he going so slow? And then I'm like, oh, I'm literally having a conversation with myself. It's just because you're able to process information so fast, and almost like slows time down, like if you're in the Matrix. Or if you just think about, your computer, how fast it can populate information. Some people's computers populated a lot faster, because they have, a higher tech computer or whatever. So it's kind of like that when you fight as well. And I actually enjoy the processing of that. And because I even think when I do wrestling now and I do jiu-jitsu now, my computer doesn't process that information as fast. So it's starting to get there, but it doesn't process it. So once I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Boom. And then something else happened. I'm like, okay, I gotta. So I understand that in my mind, I have to be able to get my awareness to be able to just feel his body, how close, how far they are, to create, different opportunities for myself. And when it comes to stand-up, I feel like that I can't do that.
It's interesting, actually. I never thought of this before, but being a master of something and then going back and beginning at white belt of another thing, you get to restudy the process. You'll be better at the process, but you'll actually probably develop an even better appreciation for your mastery, because now the thing you master, the computer happens automatically at a high speed. The new thing, you're still training the computer. You will appreciate your own level of mastery even higher by learning new things.
I never thought about it like exactly like that. It actually gave me goosebumps about you telling me that, because when I went out to do my first MMA fight, I was not a master in anything. I was really good at martial arts. I was a great and athletic athlete, but I didn't appreciate the other art forms, and it was a rude awakening for me. And it's interesting because I went out there as a young man. They're like, oh, you want to do MMA? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Are you gonna practice takedowns or anything? No, why not? Just punch, kick everybody in the head.
Kick this guy.
No, he's not gonna do anything about it. And obviously, I had a rude awakening. I had my first professional loss, and now going into that same realm, into the MMA and stuff, I'm enjoying it so much more. I think it's just because of the time and say the mastery that I've understood now in my sport, the black belt, say that I've become as a teacher, as a trainer, and then so now when I'm learning as a student, I'm able to absorb this information at a such faster rate, and I'm able to appreciate the intricacies of the actual information that the instructor is giving to me, and then sometimes I just ask them questions. I'm like, hey, well, and they're just like, well, okay. And then they start breaking it down, and they're like, you're not supposed to be asking that question technically, but, so to speak, at a, say, a newer level, but my mind starts to just process that information. So it's been a very fun learning curve. And I think I was at the beginning, I didn't enjoy that learning curve of being new and not being, sometimes your pride or your ego can get in the way that if you're the best at something, why would I want to go and do something where I have to learn and I'm not the best at it anymore? It's like, let me just stay in my lane. But for me, I think part of martial art is growing. You know what I mean? It's challenging yourself.
I think also one of the things that play into that is when you're teaching, and since you're actively teaching, you're not only are you trying to explain whatever lesson you're doing today, but you also feel questions from someone who is in that process, that is learning for the first time, that doesn't understand what a side kick, round kick, or whatever the lesson is that you're teaching. But sometimes they spark in your brain something that you may not have thought of, and in a way you're learning with them. I think that's one of the benefits that you have when you're in front of a class and teaching.
Have you guys ever seen Jean-Jacques Machado, one of the great jiu-jitsu black belts, talking about the greatest student he ever had?
Huh.
It was Dan Inosanto, who was, of course, Bruce Lee's protege. Dan came in and started training jiu-jitsu at like 60. or 65. And Jean-Jacques said, I just never seen anybody learn like this. He'd never seen anybody be focused that way, be capable of learning, because just like Ray right now, you know, I'm sure Ray's a purple belt or a brown belt level jiu-jitsu, but he also will have things about strategy and tactics that you learn in mastery of something that immediately apply over to the other thing that normally people wouldn't learn at this level, right? So yes, you've learned how to set up a spin kick, but you've learned how to manipulate the mind of an opponent. And that's already there when you train wrestling or jiu-jitsu. And same thing when Jean-Jacques trained Dan and Osanto, he was like, he gave him his black belt in 3 years. He said, this guy just showed up. He learned at an unbelievable rate. He asked questions on a different level, and he was the greatest student he ever had.
Yeah, no, I could see how, like I said, that, and for me, that's an exact of how I feel going into it. Like, it's just, it's, I don't think a lot of times when you're a student coming in, you're worried about like your progression, your belt. But if you have an understanding in something else, you come in at it from a different perspective, where you're trying to gain information, to get knowledge, to grow as an individual, as a martial artist. And so it's not important to progress, as you understand the progression is not as important as the information itself. Because that's what I try to tell my students, like, you don't become a real martial artist, you don't start learning karate until you get a black belt. Once you get a black belt,
the beginning,
giving back, then you actually become, that's your first day of really learning.
And I think also you have a lot of built-in help too. Your life partner, your wife, is also a martial artist and also a professional fighter, and your brother-in-laws are both respected martial artists as well. So you got a built-in camp within your family.
Oh yeah,
man, I love to hang out at dinner with you guys. Just watch you guys at dinner.
Yeah, it's good fun. Sage was actually just down here the other day and stuff like that. And then I actually have Sean come in. He's actually one of my main training partners. He's the youngest of the group, but they come down and both of them actually help me out during my my training camps and stuff like that. And I give them back some stand-up side of life. You know what I mean? But they're a lot more versed in as far as wrestling and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And they're both animals. Like, their workout ethic and my wife's workout ethic is ridiculous. She gets me up and motivated to work out every day, because she's just like, she'll be getting up here shortly to just go and get her Sunday workout in possibly. So
awesome.
Well, let's see. Do we have that one more we're going to break down? Because I know both you guys are
all right. Go ahead.
Time, but we'll get it queued up. This, like you said, Robert, I can't wait to see that breakdown. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be some.
Oh yeah, I'm going to do both of these. But yeah, look at how much it's changed. How many years later is this, Ray?
Oh man, that had to be 2005. So
see if I get a date for you.
I hate to interrupt you guys, but this is so unbelievably cool to do this with you guys. It's so cool. The history and the art. Oh
yeah. I'm a huge martial arts nerd. Like, I don't care if it's UFC, Invicta, Bellator. I just love combat sports. So I like, you know, even if it's boxing, I like to check a lot of the fights out. There's you know what I mean? I like to see how people you know, so this is I believe this 2005, 2006. This is the end of that actual season. We were fighting for 3rd and 4th place, I believe. Earlier in this particular event, I had the opportunity to share the WCL ring with the great Stephen Thompson, who is now in UFC. Is an amazing fighter. I'm a huge fan of him. Uses martial arts in the skill set of martial arts in such a great way. I mean, just it's a great role model for the sport. And I think he actually shows a lot of beauty of what a true martial artist is. But I had an opportunity to share the ring with him. Unfortunately, he blew his knee out, and we didn't get a chance to finish that song and dance. But Steve, if you're ever listening, brother, I would love to not challenge you to a fight or anything, brother, but just get some sparring rounds in with you as a fellow martial artist. Just you know, continue to push ourselves. I've had people come out to train with me to fight against him, which I've always kind of had a difference of feeling about, you know what I mean? But because I've always been a fan and wanted to see him be successful, you know what I mean? So as it was interesting to kind of, you know, work with somebody against him when I'm actually a fan of him and I want to see him super successful. So this is the finals for, I believe, 3rd and 4th place for this particular year.
Well, I'm hoping if that workout ever happens, you let me know. I'll fly out to record it.
Yeah.
I'd love to
Yeah,
see
me
behind the
too.
scenes.
I'm going to analyze all that. But I think I can help you guys set that up. I'm friends with Steven too, and I'm friends with his dad. So let me work on it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I like I said, I honestly would just love to get in there and just move around.
Oh.
Just kind of like, you know what I mean? Just like, all right, let me see somebody who is a master of this same type of craft that I'm a master at. Let me see what you got, and see what I got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's very fun. Another person I would love to spar with is Lyoto Machida.
Ooh.
I would love to spar with Machida. Like, all right,
yeah, it's a whole different game.
That's a complete different game.
Yeah, cool. That'd be real cool.
All right, here we go. Hitting the button. This is me fighting Caldwell. Again, I hadn't lost. Our team hadn't ever lost, but before I came on the team in the Vegas, the LA team had a loss already. So when I bounce
the comfort level.
Yeah, when I bounce around like that, this is when I was telling you guys a little bit earlier. I can gauge whether a person understands my range or not. And for me, a big thing is like I like to consider myself more like a sniper. I can do close combat if I need to, but I take less damage if I just do my sniping. And so when I move around with a person, I can tell whether they understand my range or not. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't understand my range.
And even the arms to be able to see it, is he reacting to the reaching and the testing of the limits of the ball?
Yeah, you see that. That's exactly what that is. Does he recognize that I'm kind of getting in, like I'm getting a little closer, whether I'm stepping forward, so I step towards him, moving around. I'm like, okay, he doesn't recognize any of this.
Yeah. I think
that's
many chases.
Yeah, people don't realize I actually want them to chase me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can see it.
I know that lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said,
he is feeling pressure for sure. He's handling it as well as he can. Oh, but that's gonna freak you right out when you cartwheel that at him.
Hey, Ray, if you would pause it for a second. So, cartwheel kicks are something that you're used to throwing. You used to be NBL National Black Belt League fighter. I think if I remember right, cartwheel kicks were 4 points in sports karate. And the funny thing about them is, if you're watching the show and you see a guy start to do a cartwheel, you're hit with it. If you can't identify that technique coming at you, the only question is, are you gonna hit with both feet or one? And from being on, I remember when we fought, I was like, I know that cartwheel's coming. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. And my whole thing was, don't get hit with your damn cartwheel kick today. Yeah. But the thing is that you see the professional sports. I know you probably did this just like, oh, he there's no way that he's gonna know. What was your mindset right before you threw that technique?
For me, like I said, my biggest thing was to show the beauty of my art form. I don't think a lot of people really saw the beauty of a sport karate competitor. And I always like to throw moves that people would only see in movies, or think that, oh, you know what? That technique won't work. Like I've seen people do breakdowns of my 720, or they just do it and they post it. People are like, oh, that wouldn't work in a real fight. And then people are like, hey, it has worked.
That is a real fight.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's
against a professional fighter too.
Yeah, so my cartwheel kick is something I used to throw a lot more before I ruptured my Achilles tendon. I used to whip it out at people, and it generated so much force. People don't realize the amount of force you can generate.
Full body.
Yes, yeah. I'm whipping my full body, and I'm coming at you with my legs. And they're coming in, and they don't think, I see, but I'm actually would be looking upside down at how my feet were going to land and hit this person.
And it's a different angle of attack, too. Think about it. It's coming down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, normally if you're dealing with straight lines and curves and here, we're not dealing with this. Like this is just not something we're dealing with. And when this is a whole conversation, hours of conversation for another day. But when Mallory said, I'm sitting there thinking, don't get hit with that cartwheel kick, don't get hit. You're taking up part of his brain space with that concern.
Exactly.
That's going to give you something else. So just the threat of it. And so it sucks if you're not aware of it, and it kind of sucks if you are aware of it, because now Mallory,
so
like
busy
you said,
worried about it,
Right, you're blowing up my spot, man. That's my whole fight strategy. Everybody has to be worried about my spin kicks and getting hit with this spinny stuff. So they're like, just don't let them hit you with this spinny stuff. I'm already in your head, and you have actually conceded to losing to me as long as I don't hit you with
the spin kick.
Right. Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
to me, that's what a lot of fighters are already accepting to, like, okay, he's gonna beat me, but as long as he doesn't hit me with that hard spin kick, or he doesn't do anything that's a highlight that's gonna make me, So for me, I'm actually okay with just winning, and that's just the icing on the cake when I get that other part.
Yeah, man. That those mental aspects of the reality of what you are facing when you fight. We can talk about that for months, and we still will only touch on the surface of what's actually happening there. But that's where the gold is. That's where the gold is in martial arts.
And so that's why when they say your reputations kind of like precede you, I know my spin kicks, people are always kind of, if you don't know about them, they can hurt you. And if you do know about them, they can also hurt your fighting style.
Yeah.
This is actually, I learned how to jab around this time.
Just pause for a second there. There's something interesting for me, I think, from so we were talking about being outside the line, outside of that front foot. There's a lot of value in that. But people think that's a universal rule, and that's absolutely not true. Because once you started jabbing, you're jabbing on the inside line now. You're taking your foot on the inside line. And I think commentators, it's our fault. We've done this. We're like, and he needs his foot on the outside because that'll line up the power hand. It's like, that's only one dimension of it. How you take that inside line, or how you concede the outside foot to draw his power hand to purposefully counter it, all of that's at play all the time with that southpaw versus orthodox. And you're seeing it here. Now you've not only learned to jab, which you can see that's a whole new weapon, but now you're taking a completely different line when you do. So he's not just dealing with a different weapon, he's dealing with a different line too.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually very observant. I do this thing called a drift jab, where I'm stepping to the inside, but I'm ending on the outside. A lot of people don't understand it or use it. And so I'm putting myself in different positions. So for me, a big thing is the reason why I'm able to hit a lot of these guys is because, they only travel on a straight line. It's always a straight line, but that straight line can have different angles. So people only go back and forth on a straight line. So, and that's what I like to do, is I like to create these new angles of attack, and people aren't aware, are prepared to defend themselves because they're at a new angle. And that's when I started to adapt. What I try to do is adapt the jab. So I learned the jab, right? I'm like, okay, let me see how I can use it to my advantage. You know what I mean, with creating my angles and my movement.
But even as you called it a drift jab, which I haven't heard, but it's cool, and I'm glad now that I've heard that. If he believes that you always want your foot on the outside, just by drifting to the inside, you're exploiting the weakness of his belief system.
Yes.
Right? He improperly believes this is a rule, but it is not a rule, because you prove it as you cheat that rule to your benefit.
Yeah. And so I pushed it back a little bit, but if you see it when I shoot my jab, I'm also drifting to the outside. And then now I'm making him step his foot. And now I'll be able to either pull him into some of my knees or pull him into my left hand if I wanted to. Because see, now I step my foot to the outside. So I went to the inside at first. And then over here, I step my foot to the outside of his body. And then now, so instead of going inside, if you notice where my foot is now, and now I have my power hand.
Yeah.
So people don't understand, so I am doing an inside and an outside, so you don't know. And then sometimes people don't understand that also I will allow them to win to get to the outside of me, because now I'm setting you up, because I know that you're limited on what you can do, because now you're on my outside. So as long as I am aware that you're there, it's the only time it's dangerous is if I'm not aware that you're there.
Alistair Overeem, when he fought, I forget who it was, Andrei Arlovsky.
Okay.
He spent a ton of the fight, literally. So I'm Overeem, and I'm southpaw. Arlovsky is orthodox. I stand my foot deep inside, and he dips his head over, literally saying, throw your right hand or your right kick. But he does it so obviously that Arlovsky's looking at it and go, that guy's trying to trap me into throwing a right hand or a right kick. So he literally throws nothing. So by taking the deep inside line and saying, why don't you throw, he froze him and made him do absolutely nothing at all by conceding that line. And I watched that and I'm just like, oh God, that is so brilliant. He offered him only two weapons, He made it so obvious that the guy didn't throw the weapons, and now he did nothing. And he literally froze him by it seeming so wrong that he did it, that it had to be a trap. And since it's a trap, I won't do anything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
that manipulation is just so, that level of gamesmanship is just so brilliant.
You set the table too well for him. Like, wait, this looks so good that it has it. It's like, this is there. And in your brain, you're thinking that the weapon's got to fire. It's right there. But then the logical part, like, wait a minute, it's a trap. It's too good.
100%.
I should not take it. And that takes away from you. By him giving, took away from him.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Gamesmanship of the highest degree.
Yeah.
and keep it going. And I'm in a position of advantage where I can throw combinations. So he tried to throw a spin kick on me that actually surprised me.
Yeah.
Was that a knee right there?
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a roundhouse kick that I wanted to throw,
Yeah.
drifting over to his backside so I can expose the liver right here, but he didn't disengage, so it ended up being like a shin type knee towards his body because he didn't disengage. But I'm going towards his backside, that way it opens up this liver shot for me.
One thing you're seeing too, in your evolution is multiple shots in and multiple shots while you're in and multiple shots out. And they're looking at the out. Like, that would be the frustrating part for the opponent. It's like, you're just not there.
Yeah, that's what, like, a lot of fighters, I remember when I was first going into full contact, people wanted to know if I could take a shot. They're like, can you take a shot? I'm like, well, I don't really know. Like, I don't really want people to hit me like that.
You're not lining up for those every day.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make sense to me. And then this is the tail end of the fight right here.
Those three, like.
Yeah, you need multiple binks there.
Wow.
Bink.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was a lot of confusion as well, too, because he didn't know what was going on, what angle I was going at. And then
everybody liked that one. So left hand in first, right?
Yeah.
Head kick left.
With my left and attacking. Like, I think he was dazed on a few of the different techniques I had been hitting him with over the fight. So.
Yeah, there's more punches in between those kicks, even on the second viewing than I picked up on the first. Spin kick.
One of the spin hook kicks I threw.
Exit.
Yeah. Creating my space again.
Yeah.
And leading with the left hand, going towards his backside.
Right hand.
What I'm doing is making a punch across his body right here. So I hit him 1-2. Now see how he's punching across. So even if he hits me right here, even if he hits me, he's not going to hit me with his most flush shot that he can hit me. So I do understand I'm going to get hit, but I never want to get hit by my opponent's full power. So I always try to put myself in a position when they do clip me, they feel like they're reaching, or they're like, that wasn't all I had. Because that keeps me safe. And then this is actually, a lot of people didn't see the uppercut.
Up jab.
Yeah. Remember when you were talking about angles of attacks? Most people are used to attacks coming in a straight line at them, but not underneath. So for me,
that up jab really is the key to the whole thing. And now he's been dazed, and his vision has been affected slightly. And now all this he probably doesn't see. Everything that follows this.
So all I did, I call it serving up the chin. So you serve up the chin, and then now you can hit him with. And the great words of man, I can hit him with my beat.
Bink.
You big. Yeah, you. That was Big
right
City.
Wow.
Wow.
And that last kick was really saved by the ref. Man, that was coming. It was a low angle catching you while you're falling. That's new.
Yeah, I like to attack it. You brought it up, like, from the cartwheel kick comes from upward angles. But a lot of my techniques, people don't understand. Like, people don't think, somebody has power. Some people are just borrowing force from the earth. When you strike, you're actually borrowing energy from the earth to get power. Some people are just, you have a lower center of gravity or whatever case, and you're able to do it a little bit better. But the way my kicks, I like them to come from the ground, come up. So, like, I use that energy force to come up. I think Max Holloway is fighting this week, and this is a whole Max. If you see this, brother, I hope you see it, because I love the blessed era. I love your fighting style. The mistake I think Max made is he's punching high. His opponent is shorter, so he's not probably fighting guys that are shorter, so he's hitting the top of his head. So therefore, he can take shots up there. He's a shorter fighter. So if Max were to punch up at him a little bit more, he would connect. Max is landing a lot of shots, but he's landing them in the wrong area.
Right.
So he has to throw punches that are coming up at up angles and knees that are coming at up angles from the ground in order to catch chin better. I watched his last fight, and he's punching the guy. If you really watch it, and then he does a great job of lowering his chin and his body to get smaller. So he's catching shots up here as opposed to if Max threw his punches up. Sorry, I just threw that.
That's super cool, though. You know what's interesting?
And I've like thought about sending him a private message like, Max, look, brother, I watched you fight, and you're amazing. But the only if a coach didn't tell him that he needs to punch at an upward angle to fight a shorter fighter. Normally, the fighters I fight are always shorter than me because I'm a 6'2", welterweight. So a lot of times I love to fight a guy my size because they're bigger and slower. So I have to punch upward instead of punching their forehead.
But that game is easier when you're playing the hands down style too.
Yeah,
right. So it plays right into that. I'll cut this clip. I'll send it to Brian, his manager.
And I'll pass it to him, man.
That's cool.
I want to see him do his thing. You know what I mean? And
that is excellent.
Yeah, me too.
I know, guys, we have had a great Sunday. This is great. It's a total karate nerd conversation. So once again, please follow Robin Black on all his social media platforms. I guarantee you will not be disappointed, and you might even learn something too. So that's the great thing. Ray, of course, you're back teaching. What's new in Evolution that you got coming up?
I got my Evolution Fighting System, Fighting with Style, for Sport Karate Part 1 and Part 2 that are out now. So you guys can go check it out on RaymondDaniels.com. I'm really excited to be announcing that I'll be doing my full contact series. So it's going to be Evolution Fighting System. It's my hybrid system because I think the style that I fight with is not as traditional, say, kickboxing or MMA style. It's totally different. So it's going to be my hybrid Evolution Fighting System for professionals. So they can learn to use the skill sets, the ins and outs of how I'm striking. For me, one of my biggest attributes of fighting is that I don't take a lot of damage. You know, you don't see me in those wars. Well, if I have to get in one, I obviously go there. But I like to have my brain functioning perfectly fine, when this is all said and done. So I think that's really important to teach the art about hitting without being hit.
And this is true, and it also enables you to enjoy that victory sweets at the end, which is Reese's Pieces. If you didn't know that about Ray, got the shrine at the end of a fight, and Reese's Pieces, which you should get a sponsorship for. You have them at the end.
Definitely.
Boys, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. We'll be back again. Like I said, we'll be doing this, keeping it real with the real deal. We'll be spacing these out, but we'll be back with another great guest. Robin, thank you so much for your time. Ray, thank you for this time. This has been great. I can't wait for the next one.
Thank you, guys, man. I will come back anytime. You want to do this once a month? I don't want to invite myself to dinner or anything, but it would be my pleasure.
Oh, you have a place.
Such a pleasure.